Hi everyone, my name is Emma Walquist, and I'll be presenting our paper titled It's Not What We Were Trying to Get At, but I Think Maybe It Should Be. Learning how to do trauma-informed design with a data donation platform for online dating sexual violence. Trauma has been foregrounded in HCI in various ways. We are in the early stages of learning how to incorporate trauma in tech design. Recent CHI papers have encouraged use of trauma-informed approach. Indeed, there remains a gap in knowledge around how trauma-informed design teams apply a trauma-informed approach and qualify their resultant technologies as trauma-informed. We address this gap with a 12-month trauma-informed development cycle to produce UBE, a data donation platform for collecting online dating sexual experience data to enable novel forms of sexual risk detection AI. Analysis of that development cycle unpacks a trauma-informed design process that is transferable to other contexts for technology design beyond data donation. Those who conduct research with traumatized communities or design technologies to address trauma will find this presentation most valuable. First, research surrounding trauma in HCI has already begun. Research has been conducted in communities who have high rates of trauma, such as the LGBTQ community, with people of color, incarcerated individuals, and sex workers. Additionally, research has been conducted on specific types of harm associated with trauma, such as sexual and domestic violence, child abuse, and pregnancy loss. Other work has studied the use, design, and application of technology in response to experiences that may have been traumatic, such as the use of social media and chatbots for social support, and development of video games to help children who have experienced trauma. Instead of studying trauma, we apply the trauma-informed approach to our area of study. If you're wondering what the trauma-informed approach is, it is a theoretical model that was developed for use in clinical settings, think hospitals and trauma centers, to ensure the safety of those who have experiences of trauma. It is starting to be applied to research settings in an attempt to avoid re-traumatization within participants. As we see on the slide, a program, organization, or system that is trauma-informed realizes the widespread impact of trauma and understands potential paths for recovery, recognizes the signs and symptoms of trauma in clients, families, staff, and others involved within the system, and responds by fully integrating knowledge about trauma into policies, procedures, and practices, and seeks to actively resist re-traumatization. Importantly, we see these R words bolded in this text. These are applied to our design quite directly. The 6 principles of the trauma-informed approach provide ways in which we should be using those R's, such as recognizing trauma that we saw on the last slide. First, we should be guaranteeing participant safety. SAMHSA, the organization that really pioneered the trauma-informed approach, argues for both physical and psychological safety. Because we are engaging with participants through an app, we are mostly working to ensure psychological safety. The second principle provided by the trauma-informed approach is trustworthiness and transparency, meaning that decisions are conducted with transparency with the goal of building and maintaining trust with participants. The third principle is peer support, a crucial component. We must provide connections with people who are able to promote healing and recovery. Principle 4 is collaboration and mutuality, placing importance on leveling the power differences between participants and researchers. The fifth principle is empowerment, voice, and choice. We must give participants as much power over their experience within the application as possible. The final principle is cultural, historical, and gender issues. Here, we must actively move past cultural stereotypes and biases. The field of HCI is in the beginning stages of incorporating the trauma-informed approach in technology design. Chen and colleagues, for example, have adapted SAMHSA's 6 principles of the trauma-informed approach into a trauma-informed computing framework and provided opportunities within which the approach could be applied, such as UX research and design or artificial intelligence. Building on this paper by Chen and colleagues, Scott and colleagues offer a comprehensive overview of social media-based trauma and propose the notion of trauma-informed social media. They speculate on how these principles could be integrated into social media design and content moderation practices. Finally, the paper, Designing Post-Trauma Self-Regulation Apps for People with Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities, conducts interviews with health practitioners to gather design ideas and suggestions for post-trauma self-regulation apps tailored to individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. The trauma-informed approach has also been applied to technology design. Indeed, Kelly and colleagues developed a web portal for university students to find informational resources in accordance with a list of trauma-informed design heuristics they created that could be used to evaluate usability. Additionally, Rahan and colleagues presented Castillo, a sexual assault reporting platform, and illustrated how the cryptographic components of its system serve as roots for trust for privacy preservation. They did not explicitly apply the trauma-informed approach, but their findings concluded that the application of the trauma-informed approach design is essential for creating an accessible, secure, and empowering user experience. Finally, the paper Child Welfare System, Interaction of Policy, Practice, and Algorithms conducted participatory design around an algorithm for child welfare cases based on trauma-informed care. Given these important steps forward, our research question is as follows. How does a trauma-informed design team qualify their resultant technology as adhering to trauma-informed principles? Our study took place over 12 months and led to the development of an application we call UBE. It is a trauma-informed data donation application where users will donate information surrounding their sexual experiences related to dating apps. We define data donation as transferring and allowing users to contextualize their data. We decided on data donation because it centers donor well-being and because of a lack of valid data sets for training sexual risk detection AI. Previous efforts into AI for detecting harm on social media platforms have relied on publicly available data and data annotation from third parties. These practices raise questions about the validity of ground truth based on such annotation and suggest the need for involvement of primary stakeholders who have experienced the harms aiming to be detected. Thus, data donation has emerged as a human-centered approach for gathering ecologically valid data for improving risk-detecting AI. These gaps in the literature led to our application, UBE. UBE is a data donation app for Androids developed using React Native and JavaScript. Through this application, users log in and provide data on sexual experiences related to online dating. Users provide answers to both multiple choice and short answer questions and provide and annotate screenshots. The general question we hope to answer with this data provided by donors is how consent is given and or received in the context of online to offline sexual experiences. So, how does the data donation process work in UBE? Our study takes place over the course of 2 months. Participants provide data on their most recent sexual experience, whether it was online or offline. They upload data and provide contextual details surrounding the events that happened with this person. UBE works first by identifying what sexual act occurred through questions like, did you have sexual physical contact with this person? And then by understanding how the act was initiated using questions like, how was oral sex initiated? UBE then asks questions about consent, both given and received. Finally, UBE asks questions about their online interactions with this person. For example, on which applications did you engage with this person? UBE also requests screenshots of these online interactions. Here I provided an example of a few questions UBE may ask a user. UBE asks the user, prior to meeting, did messages you sent or received on the dating app help you understand that they were open to sexual contact? Donors then choose between yes, no, and I don't know. This user selects yes and then is asked to upload screenshots of the messages that help them understand that the other person was open to sexual contact. We see on the right that they are then able to annotate the screenshot they've attached and provide a short answer response detailing what happened in the screenshot they've attached, thus contextualizing their data. Before we get into our methodological approach, I want to quickly remind everyone of our big research question. How does a trauma-informed design team qualify their resultant technology as adhering to trauma-informed principles? Our team consists of a forensic nurse, 2 social workers, 2 psychologists, 1 HCI expert, 2 UX students, and 2 AI experts. We engaged in weekly meetings, then mocked up text-based scenarios which were then turned into UBE mockups, first on Figma and then in an actual functional application. We then conducted cognitive walkthroughs and improved the mockups and eventual application with the suggestions gathered from this process. Finally, we developed the application. There are really 2 parts to data collection. First, we have design. Design of our application was done through text-based key path scenarios, a UBE prototype in Figma, and a functional UBE app. The design process involved weekly meetings, video recordings, and transcripts of walkthroughs, and notes from our walkthroughs. analyze this data, we used reflexive thematic analysis. We did this because the overarching goal of the process was to protect donors from re-traumatization through application of the trauma-informed approach. RTA was the best analysis for this because it allowed us to map out design practices and retrospectively articulate procedural elements we use to integrate TIA and technology, providing others with the best shot of replicating our process. Our findings take the form of a trauma-informed design process. We present 3 elements. First, design goals, design activities, and design decisions. Our design goals adapt the assumptions of a trauma-informed approach to the specific application area of data donation of sexual experiences. Creating design goals entailed the team collectively deciding what it would mean for our data donation platform, UBE, to exemplify baseline capacity to be trauma-informed. We pursued these design goals through design activities which mapped to the 6 trauma-informed principles, which in turn produced design decisions or interface features that were scrutinized and improved in their perceived adherence to the respective trauma-informed principle. In other words, the principles were most applied to the design activities, which produced design decisions. To provide an example of one of these design goals, our first goal was to support a plurality of data donation journeys. This design goal incorporated 2 of the 4 R's, recognize and respond to trauma. It aligns with the principles of empowerment, voice, and choice, and cultural, historical, and gender issues. The goal also allowed for flexibility in the donation process. The corresponding design activities were first to identify different stakeholder types that may necessitate fundamentally different data donation journeys, and second, to draft key path scenarios to recognize and prepare for all possible data donation journeys. We applied the principle of empowerment, voice, and choice by seeking to ensure donors were given prompts that are most applicable to their experience, thus fully enabling contextualization of relevant details. Given the variety of key path scenarios, we associated differences in donation/contextualization prompts. We designed data donation journeys as sequential processes of disclosure to ensure donors were shown appropriate prompts for their experience. This is why UBE was ultimately designed as a chatbot. We also applied the principle of cultural, historical, and gender issues by considering many different types of donors. Our donor types varied based on whether the donated experience happened online or in person, the presence of consent, and recognition of experience, whether they believe they are a perpetrator or victim or a consensual experience. We traded and discussed literature showing how sexual violence often occurs without conscious awareness due to problematic social and sexual scripts that can lead to perceptions that sex is supposed to or obligated to happen in certain contexts. These discussions helped our team recognize that prompts for data donation and contextualization that explicitly ask about sexual violence or non-consensual acts may overlook vital experiences that donors do not consciously recognize as harmful. For a quick look at how 2 different donors may experience the app in different ways, here is how a donor who wanted the act to occur may experience the app. Here we see UB asks them, "Did you want to engage in fondling, kissing, or rubbing with this person?" And they respond yes. UBE then asks, "How did you communicate that you wanted to engage in fondling, kissing, or rubbing with this person?" Here is how a donor who did not want the act to occur may experience the app. UBE asks the same question as the last screen that we just saw. Did you want to engage in fondling, kissing, or rubbing with this person? However, this person responds no. Notice how in the last screen, UBE asked, how did you communicate that you wanted to engage in fondling, kissing, or rubbing with this person? Whereas here, UBE asks, were you able to communicate that you did not want to engage in fondling, kissing, or rubbing with this person? And when the donor indicates yes, UBE asks, how did you communicate that you did not want to engage in fondling, kissing, or rubbing with this person? These different questions are needed for those who have fundamentally different experiences on these apps. For a quick recap, we add to the literature by providing a procedure others may use to ensure that they are implementing TIA in the best way possible. We suggest using design goals, design activities, and design decisions to guide your process. We also provide methodological suggestions within our paper, and I'll explain a few and why we've included them. First, we suggest involving trauma experts and care practitioners early in design to inform foundational design directions and minimize drastic design changes. We involved a sexual assault nurse examiner from the start of our project, though we did not seek additional advice from other trauma experts until month 7. Talking with these other experts led to important changes in our design, and ultimately this delayed our development. We should have involved these additional trauma experts earlier to inform design directions at earlier stages to minimize additional work to our developers.